I'm Alex, 33 years old, and until this year, I genuinely believe that if you gave enough time, money, forgiveness, eventually people would stop treating you like an afterthought. Or worse, like a resource. I'm not married. No kids. Just a decent tech job, a quiet apartment, and a deeply dysfunctional family I've spent too long trying to keep together with my wallet. This Easter was supposed to be different. I told myself that as I booked the hotel rooms for everyone, 5 total, all deluxe suites at a resort near my condo. I reserved them under my name, paid in full in advance. I even covered the flights. My mom complained about flying economy, so I upgraded them to business. My brother whined about his back hurting from cheap rental cars, so I got them all a van. And the cherry on top? I prepaid for catering, spiral ham, roasted vegetables, fancy deviled eggs, the works. I even sprang for wine, which my parents love to pretend they can't afford, but have no issue guzzling when someone else picks up the tab. I did all of it quietly, not for praise, but because I thought, maybe this time, they'd see me as more than the family ATM. Maybe, just maybe, they'd treat me like a son, a brother, not a transaction. They arrived Friday night. I picked them up myself. My brother, Mike, immediately asked if the van had Bluetooth. My mom was texting someone the whole time. Dad didn't say a word until we pulled up to the hotel, and he muttered, "Huh, not bad," like he was evaluating a used couch. No thank yous. No hugs. Just passive grunts and complaints about the weather. Saturday, I took them to a winery tour. My treat again. My Aunt Janine and Uncle Ray had tagged along, as they always do. No invite. Just assumed they'd be included. Janine sniffed the wine and loudly said, "Tastes like something you'd find at a gas station," then laughed at her own joke. I tried to laugh too. Try not to let it get to me. After all, it's Easter. Family. Forgiveness. Right? That night, I went back to my apartment alone while they all enjoyed their rooms, their minibars, the indoor pool. I sat on the edge of my bed and scrolled through my photos, realizing I wasn't in a single one they'd taken that day. Not one. I shut my phone off and told myself to get over it. Tomorrow would be better. It wasn't. Easter Sunday. I got up early, headed to the hotel to help them get dressed, and to drive them to my condo for the dinner. I walked in with a tray of pastries and fresh squeezed juice. Mom rolled her eyes and said, "Oh good, the caterer's here." She didn't even laugh. No one did, because they weren't joking. We got to my place, and I started laying everything out: folded napkins, flowers, place cards. Mom saw her name next to Dad's and scoffed. "You should have asked." "We're not those people," she said, pulling her card and placing it next to Janine instead. No one asked how I was. No one said thank you. The moment things started to really unravel was during dinner. It was just after the ham was carved and passed around. I raised my glass and said, "Happy Easter. I'm really glad everyone could make it." I meant it. Or at least I wanted to. That's when Mom smirked and said, "Look who decided to bless us with his wallet." The table chuckled. My Aunt Janine followed with, "Guess the ATM still works." Then Mike, mouth full of sweet potato, muttered, "Hope you're charging us for this on TurboTax." And they all laughed. My mom actually clinked her wine glass against Janine's. My dad leaned back and said, "Well, it's not like he has a family of his own to spend it on. What else is he going to do with it?" I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there. Fork paused midair. My pulse got loud in my ears. For a second, I felt like a ghost at my own table. And it wasn't just the insult. It was the ease of it. How casually they took what I gave and twisted it into something pathetic. I looked around the table. My aunt chewing with her mouth open. My mom dabbing at imaginary crumbs. Mike scrolling through something on his phone. My dad already eyeing the wine bottle. No one noticed I hadn't laughed. No one noticed my jaw clenched. No one cared. I stood up, glass in hand. They finally looked. I smiled. Not out of joy, but something colder. Something sharper. "Enjoy it," I said. "Because this is the last meal you leeches will ever get from me." There was a silence. Not stunned. Not offended. Just confused. Like I'd broken script. Then I walked into the kitchen, pulled out my phone, and opened the hotel app. They still didn't react until I tapped cancel reservation for all 5 rooms. Before dessert. Before the toasts. Before Mom could even get her second glass of wine. And as the confirmation emails rolled in, I glanced back at their dumbfounded faces and left the room. I didn't slam the door. That would have given them too much drama to cling to. I just walked out into the cool spring air, let the door close behind me, and kept walking. Not a word. Not a look back. My condo was only a few blocks from the hotel. I could have driven, but walking gave me space to breathe. The streets were quiet. Everyone else was inside with their families, laughing over pie or watching kids hunt for eggs. I felt hollow. Not angry. Not yet. Just tired. Like I'd been carrying a backpack full of bricks for years and finally dropped it, only to realize my spine had already curved under the weight. By the time I reached the hotel, I'd gotten 2 calls. One from Mike. One from Mom. Didn't answer either. I walked straight up to the front desk. "Hi," I said, pulling out my ID. "I need to confirm that all 5 reservations under Alex Monroe have been canceled." The guy at the desk blinked at me, then tapped on his keyboard. Looks like they've all been canceled, yes. Refunds are already processing." "Perfect," I said. "And just so we're clear, if anyone tries to rebook those same rooms, I'm revoking the authorization on my card. They're not to be recharged under any circumstances." He looked awkward. "Are they still in the rooms right now?" "Yep," I said, "but they'll be leaving soon. Just give them the checkout notice like you would anyone else." I left him stammering behind the desk and stepped back outside, not waiting for the fallout. I didn't want to stand there and see the texts start pouring in. I wanted to go somewhere quiet, somewhere that didn't smell like resentment wrapped in linen napkins. I ended up at a small 24-hour diner down the road. Sat at the counter, ordered coffee and a slice of pie, pecan, because apparently I still felt like having something Easter-themed, and finally checked my phone. 12 missed calls, 5 voicemails, 3 texts from Mom, 2 from Mike, and 1 long, rambling wall of gray bubbles from Aunt Janine. I read the first message from Mom. "What was that? You're seriously leaving us stranded? We have things in the rooms." Then a minute later she texted, "This is so immature. We were just joking. You're too sensitive, Alex." Then one more text from her. "Fine. You made your point. Can you at least let us stay until morning? We'll talk then." I ignored them all. Mike's message was just a screenshot of a pending Uber ride, captioned, "Guess we're riding home with the peasants." Real classy, bro. Janine's text was a novel. She called me ungrateful, selfish, dramatic. She reminded me that family teases, and if I couldn't handle a little ribbing, maybe I was the one with the problem. I scrolled, slowly, rereading the line. "You act like we owe you something just because you have money." That one made me laugh. Out loud. In the diner. The older woman a few stools down glanced at me. I smiled and looked away. No, I didn't act like they owed me anything. I just thought, maybe if I gave enough, they'd stop taking. I stayed there at the counter for another hour, sipping coffee, finishing my pie, scrolling through old photos, ones from years ago. Birthdays where I'd paid for everyone's dinner. Christmas mornings where the biggest boxes under the tree were the ones I'd shipped over weeks in advance. Vacations where I covered flights, hotels, and even shopping sprees just to make it easier. All of it paid for by me. Quietly. Repeatedly. And now? I couldn't find a single photo where I wasn't behind the camera. Not one thank you card. Not one text after the fact. I used to tell myself it was enough to help. That family didn't need to say thank you. That love meant giving without asking for anything back. But sitting there in that diner, watching their entitled messages pop up one by one, I realized something. It wasn't love. It was habit. They expected me to fund their lives. They had come to believe that was my role. And any resistance to that role made me difficult. I finished my coffee, tipped well, walked home. By the time I reached my building, I had another voicemail, this time from Dad. I hadn't heard his voice in weeks. He rarely called. Even when he did, he sounded more like he was giving orders than reaching out. But this voicemail was quiet. Just 6 seconds. "Call me, son," he said. "Please." I stared at the screen. Then I hit delete. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset. Because I wasn't. I laid on the couch, scrolling through banking apps, pulling up old auto-pay transfers, canceling every single one. Their cell phone bill, the car insurance, the monthly checks I'd been sending to help with groceries, the streaming accounts they still used, under my name. Even the old PayPal link I'd set up for Mike when he hit a rough patch 3 years ago and forgot to ever log out of. Each one I canceled felt like a knot loosening in my chest. And just when I was about to log off and try to rest, I saw it. The one thing I hadn't touched yet. The mortgage. Not my mortgage. Theirs. It was 2:03 a.m. when I opened the bank app and tapped into the mortgage account. The screen lit up with all the familiar numbers. Monthly payment, $2,370. Due date, 14th of every month. Auto debit, enabled from my main account. I stared at it longer than I should have. My thumb hovered over the Cancel Auto Pay button like it was a detonator. This was the one thing I'd kept going. Even after the sarcastic jabs, and the way they always made me feel like I'd stumbled into someone else's family by accident. I told myself it was just easier this way, that letting it lapse would put them in danger, that no matter how they treated me, I couldn't live with the guilt of letting the roof over their heads collapse. But that was before Easter dinner, before the jokes, before Mom raised her glass and toasted my income like it was a lottery ticket they all shared, and before I saw how easy it was for them to laugh at me while chewing food I bought, sleeping in beds I booked, wrapped in comfort I paid for. They didn't love me. They loved what I gave. And the moment I stopped giving, would they even notice I was gone? I tapped Cancel Auto Pay. Confirmed. The little green toggle turned gray. A chill ran through me. Not fear, not guilt, just clarity. Cold, sobering clarity. I closed the app, set my phone down, and sat in the dark for a while. The silence was loud. Not the kind that hurts. The kind that feels like truth. When morning came, my phone was on Do Not Disturb. I only turned it over when the sun had started pouring in through the windows. 17 missed calls, dozens of texts, 3 voicemails, one of them from the hotel manager. I played that one first. Hi, Mr. Monroe. Just wanted to confirm that your party checked out early this morning. There was a bit of confusion, but everything's settled now. We did have a few complaints from your guests, but nothing we couldn't handle. Thanks for your business. I imagined it. Mom storming to the desk in her bathrobe, Janine demanding the manager's name, Mike groaning about needing a late checkout. And I wasn't there. For once, I wasn't there to fix it. Then I checked the group text. Mom texted, "We're sitting at the airport. No thanks to you. Your father is furious. You humiliated us." Mike texted, "You've really outdone yourself. You think this is some power move? You just made everything awkward. Grow up, Alex." Janine texted, "I don't know what kind of stunt you were trying to pull, but you've burned a lot of bridges. You're lucky your mother still wants to speak to you." Dad texted, "Nothing. No message. Just silence." Which, honestly, felt more honest than the rest. I spent the day alone. Walked to the bookstore. Read the first few chapters of a novel I'd been meaning to start. Bought groceries. Sat on a park bench with a sandwich and watched a kid try to fly a kite with his dad. Not once did I feel the usual pang of guilt that used to come whenever I distanced myself. Because this time, the distance wasn't punishment. It was freedom. Later that evening, just as I was finishing dinner, a new message popped up. It was from Lisa, my cousin. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year. She'd always been a bit of an outsider in the family, like me. Last I heard, she'd moved 3 states away to get some breathing room. Her message was short. Heard about what happened. Wish I'd done it first. Call me when you can. I stared at it for a while. Smiled. Then opened my laptop. Pulled up a few files. Scanned through some PDFs. Because canceling the auto pay wasn't the only string I could cut. The mortgage might have been in my name. But the deed? That was something they never even thought to check. It had been years since I'd looked at it. Honestly, I'd forgotten it was still under my name. I only remembered because of a conversation I'd had with my lawyer last year when I was doing some estate planning. He'd asked me, "Do you want to transfer the house to your parents officially or keep the title under your name and treat it like a rental property?" At the time, I brushed it off. I told him, "It's just easier this way. I pay for it anyway." I hadn't realized how important that decision would become. I logged into the county records portal, typed in the address, and sure enough, it was still there. Owner, Alexander Monroe. No liens. No transfers. Just my name, etched into the system like a quiet secret none of them had bothered to uncover. They'd lived there for 5 years now. 5 years in the house I bought them when Mom got sick, when Dad's pension was drying up, when Mike's 4th failed business had just chewed through the last of the family fund. I was making more money than I knew what to do with, and they needed help. It was supposed to be temporary, just until they got back on their feet. But temporary turned into expected, then permanent, then somehow owed. They decorated the house like it was theirs, painted over the original colors I'd picked, replaced furniture without asking, hosted parties, gave tours, told people they worked hard their whole lives to afford it. Not once did they mention me. Not once did I hear my name. But now? Now I held the one thing they didn't realize they'd given up. Control. The deed wasn't just paper. It was leverage. I stared at it for a long time. My cursor hovered over the download button. I thought about printing it, mailing it, leaving a little post-it on it that said, "Check the fine print." But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I called Lisa. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, breathless. "I wasn't sure you'd call." "It's good to hear your voice," I replied, and I meant it. She sighed. "I heard what happened. Janine's been blowing up my phone all day, talking about how you ruined Easter and made your mom cry." I laughed dryly. "That sounds about right." "She also said you canceled the hotel rooms during dinner." "Is that true?" "Right before dessert," I corrected. "Didn't want to waste good cake." Lisa snorted. "God, I wish I'd seen their faces. You know how long I fantasized about doing something like that." "You were always the black sheep," I said. "They just pretended I wasn't one because I paid the bills." There was a pause. "I'm proud of you, Alex," she said softly. "Seriously, you finally did what we all wanted to do, but were too scared to." I didn't know what to say to that. No one had said they were proud of me in years. Not without a price tag. "You know what's funny?" I said. "The house is still in my name." Lisa was quiet. "You're kidding." "I'm not. They never transferred it. I think they just assumed I would eventually. Or that it didn't matter." She whistled. "Wow. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said. "But I'm done letting them treat me like a bottomless bank account." "I can help," she offered immediately. "I've got a friend who's a real estate attorney. If you want to pull records, draft notices, explore options, you name it. Just say the word." I smiled. For the first time in days, I actually smiled. "I might take you up on that." We talked for another hour. About family. About how Lisa had cut them off 2 years ago and never looked back. How she'd been painted as selfish and ungrateful for moving away, even though she'd spent her whole teenage life raising her younger siblings while her parents took weekend breaks. She wasn't selfish. She just stopped bleeding for people who sharpen knives behind her back. After the call, I sat on the couch with my laptop again. I started drafting a letter, not emotional, not angry, just formal, legal. I laid out the facts. The deed was in my name. The mortgage was paid by me. The house was, by every legal definition, mine. If they wanted to remain in it, they'd need to sign a rental agreement. Fair market value. Monthly terms. No more free rides. I didn't send it. Not yet. I wanted them to feel the shift first. 2 days passed before the first real crack showed. Mom texted me a photo of the mailbox. Open, stuffed with envelopes. "Why are there past due notices? Did something happen to the mortgage?" No emojis. No greetings. Just that. I ignored it. The next day, Mike called. Left a voicemail this time. "Hey, listen, I don't know what's going on, but Mom's freaking out. The electric bill bounced, and the water's due next week. Can you call me?" Still no apology. Still no mention of Easter. That night, I got a group email from Dad. Subject line, "Urgent, family home situation." The body was short. "We noticed the mortgage payment didn't go through this month. Your mother is worried. Can you explain what's going on?" Explain. As if I'd done something wrong. As if they hadn't spent Easter clinking glasses and cracking jokes like I was some dumb piggy bank that didn't know it was hollow. I didn't reply. Not yet. Because sometimes silence is the loudest thing you can say. 3 more days passed. And with every silent hour, the cracks in their perfect little illusion widened. I didn't send the rental agreement. I didn't reply to their messages. I simply waited. And then the knock came. Not at my front door, but at my office. It was Friday afternoon. I was finishing up some code documentation when the receptionist pinged my desk. Alex?" she said, her voice hesitant. "There's a woman here asking to speak to you. Says she's your mother." I froze. My hands lifted off the keyboard. "Tell her I'm in a meeting. She's already in the lobby. Would you like me to ask her to leave?" I paused. Then I stood. "No, I'll come down." When I walked into the lobby, there she was, Mom, in the same beige coat she wore every holiday, her hair pulled back too tight, clutching her purse like it held the last of her dignity. She looked tired. Her usual performative poise was gone. No smug smile. No condescension. Just pale worry. "Alex," she said, standing quickly. Thank God. I didn't hug her. "Why are you here?" "We need to talk," she said. "Please. Can we go somewhere private?" I gestured to the nearby side office we use for interviews. Glass walls. Neutral space. She followed me in, sat down with stiff movements, and clutched her purse tighter. She didn't speak right away, just looked at me like I was a stranger. Or maybe like she was one, finally seeing me for the first time. "The house," she said finally. "We got a notice this morning. From the bank. They're saying the mortgage is in default. 30 days before it moves to pre-foreclosure." I nodded. That's what happens when the person paying the bills stops paying them. Her eyes flashed. "Why would you do that to us?" "I didn't do anything to you," I said, keeping my voice calm. "I just stopped doing everything for you." "But it's our home," she said, desperation creeping in. "Your father and I." "It's my house," I said. "Legally, financially, and morally. I bought it when you couldn't afford one. I covered every payment. You never even asked how much it cost." "That's not fair," she whispered. "We raised you, and I repaid you 1,000 times over. I bought you a house. I paid for your groceries. I fixed your cars. I paid Mike's legal fees. You mocked me while eating food I paid for, drinking wine I ordered, and sleeping in beds I reserved. And then had the gall to laugh at me for showing up." "We didn't mean it like that," she said quickly. "It was just teasing. You know your brother jokes." I leaned forward. "Teasing is what you do when everyone's in on it. What you did was strip me of every ounce of respect while still expecting me to foot the bill. And you didn't even say thank you." She said nothing. I continued. "So here's the situation. I've spoken with an attorney. The deed is in my name. You and Dad are tenants. You've lived there rent-free for 5 years. That ends now." I pulled out the envelope I'd brought with me, placed it on the table. She didn't touch it. "That's a lease agreement," I said. "Fair market rent. 30-day grace period. You can sign it and start paying rent on the 1st of next month. Or you can vacate within 60 days. Your choice." Her eyes welled up. "You'd kick us out? Your own parents?" I didn't blink. "You kicked me out a long time ago. You just kept the receipts." She looked away, her jaw shaking. "What will people think? That's not my concern anymore." She took the envelope with trembling hands and stood. For a moment, I thought she might throw it or tear it, but she didn't. She just looked at me, as if searching for a son she no longer recognized. "You've changed." "No," I said, standing. "You just finally saw me stop pretending." She walked out without another word. The next morning, I got a call from Mike. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. "Mom told me what you did. I don't even know what to say. I guess. I'm sorry. I didn't know it got that bad. I'll help with the rent. Just don't kick them out, okay?" I didn't reply right away. Instead, I waited until Monday. And then I got a second call, this time from Dad. I debated answering, but curiosity won. "Hello," I said. He was silent for a second. Then, in the lowest, rawest tone I'd ever heard from him, he said, "We'll sign it." I didn't respond. I let him sit in that silence. "We didn't know," he continued. "We should have seen it. Treated you better. You saw exactly what you wanted to see," I said. "The moment the money stopped, you remembered my name." He didn't argue, just said, "Thank you." Then he hung up. That weekend, I got the lease back, signed. No arguments. No edits. Just quiet compliance. They've paid on time ever since. We don't talk much anymore. The holidays are quieter. I spend them with Lisa now. We started a tradition of our own. Thanksgiving in the mountains, Easter on the coast, Christmas wherever the flights are cheapest. No guilt. No passive aggression. Just laughter and freedom. Sometimes, I drive past their house. It still looks the same. But I don't stop. Not anymore. Because I've learned something they never did. Blood doesn't entitle you to someone's peace. And sometimes, the best thing you can give your family is a boundary they can't cross.